Whew.
You're good, Mr. Chair.
I'm gonna call the, June 26th, Planning Board and Zoning Commission meeting, to order. Roll call, please.
Bloomer,
Here.
Di Benedetto,
Here.
Whistler,
Here.
Boise,
Here.
Olson, Conley,
Here.
Okay, we also note, the consultants that are here. Kevin, Jeremy, yourself, please. Okay. First order of business are the minutes of, June 12th. Before I ask for a motion to approve, has everybody read through them, and are there any subsequent or corrections, additions that should be made? Yes.
I just had a suggestion under 6A, old business, down at the last third line up, where it says general discussion on master plan.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would be good to insert downtown master plan, just
Yeah.
to,
I had the same note,
just to avoid
Yeah.
confusion.
right. Anything else?
I had, on communications from the board under the city council representative update. Third line down, it says discussion on private land camping. It's privately owned commercial camping.
Discussion on,
Privately owned commercial camping,
okay, on city-owned land,
correct.
okay? You get that, Greg?
And then on 6A, a little bit more than halfway down, Conley Bloomer, estimated deadline of grant. I thought it was April of 2024, and then they extended it another year. So we're actually on our second year.
Yeah, I questioned that too. The original, it was supposed to be done in 2024,
Correct.
and we may or may not have extended it.
I think, the gal did.
Cody had,
Cody.
yeah, Cody extended it. I don't know if she actually did
She said,
extend it, but we were told in discussion.
And we don't have an extended date though, do we?
well, it was gonna be 1 year. He was going to extend it 1 year.
Oh, so maybe
But we
that,
don't- we
maybe,
never got confirmation.
maybe that's correct then. We don't know that.
It'd be nice to know that for sure.
Yeah, I don't think we can't confirm April 2025, so maybe we should just say, we requested an extension, or we recommended an extension for 1 year. That's more accurate, is it not?
Yeah.
Jeff? Okay, Greg? Anything else? Susan?
No.
Okay. I need a motion to approve as amended.
I move to approve as amended.
A second?
Okay, roll call, please.
Bloomer,
Yes.
Di Benedetto,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Boise,
Yes.
Olson, Conley,
Yes.
Okay. Move to communications from the board, urban renewal. Jeff?
I was out of town last week when they did the, walking tour of the district, so I can't really comment on that, but if anybody from the board was attended or participated in that walking tour, maybe they could share what they
Did you go?
found with us.
I didn't go. Did you go, Dave?
I can share just enough that I was here because it was scheduled to start here and then adjourn to there. And there was not there was apparently some confusion. Joanne had reached out to all the folks who were invited and told them to meet her there at the site. And so there was no part of the URD meeting that happened here. It just started there. So there was not an official meeting here before it moved to there.
Do we know if it was well attended or?
My understanding was that she had several individuals. I had secondhand information, but
And we don't know if there's any feedback yet?
not that I have received, sir.
Okay. Anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, well, that'll probably be a report out at their next meeting, which will be the second Monday of July, I believe.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Sandy,
Yeah,
City Council.
we did discuss camping again. It came up as the privately owned commercial camping spots such as Alpine Lodge. And there was a resolution an ordinance change that's been discussed and played around with allowing a camper to stay longer than 14 days, which is what the ordinance is now. If the employer is the one who secures the space, and they can get a 30-day and extend it 30 days at a time up to 4 months. The thought being that it could be workforce housing. So that's kind of in the works. Planning board,
Whoa, back up. Tell me how workforce housing worked into that.
well, because there was people that wanted to bring their camper to, for instance, Alpine
Yeah.
Lodge, but the ordinance says you can only stay 14
Okay.
days.
Yep, okay.
And so we wanted to amend the ordinance saying that if the employer supports it, and I think actually in the permit process, we'll have to sign off on it, that they can get a 30-day permit, and they can renew that up to 4 months,
Okay,
because they've been getting requests, and the ordinance reads 14 days.
okay.
And of course, there was more discussion about camping on the right-of-way. We see it all over town. And I did let them know that at our last meeting, we were told that you cannot occupy a camper on residential land, on your own land.
Right.
And so we'll have to see where that goes. Planning board, they did have, Dan Horman and John Gray did turn in their request to be on the planning board in a timely fashion. Apparently Tom Coley was a little late, but we do have 3 candidates, and it was delayed until our next city council meeting, so
Okay.
that we can also review Tom Coley's application or letter.
Is it closed now, or are you still accepting applications?
It is closed as of last Thursday, and I probably should have clarified that. I had that in my notes to clarify that we would not be accepting any additional applications. I will not be accepting any additional applications, even though I did not call that out. The deadline was Thursday.
We had 3 applicants.
Okay.
They did approve the land exchange for Yellowstone Wildlife Sanctuary, which was nice. Brian is going around and looking at signage and is going to send out letters enforcing our sign ordinance. Yeah. I did want to mention that City Hall is going to be closed on the 4th and 5th of July. They did conduct a sidewalk assessment on Broadway, I believe between 8th and 14th. And there were apparently 63 repairs that needed to be done, so they're looking at how to get that funding done.
And that's just on Broadway?
Just on Broadway, one of the businesses. And we discussed putting the draft of the growth policy on the website, clearly marked draft. And we did include the date, which was tonight's date, because we'll have more than one draft. So it would be nice. And that would allow, we had requests besides, I know 2 weeks ago we had a request, but we've had more requests since then. So, part of our public outreach, show them what we got, even though it's a draft.
Okay, a question, Kevin, after tonight's meeting, as far as we go, will you do a draft, or are you gonna wait till we go all the way through it before you do another draft?
No, I'll take all these comments into consideration and get it all incorporated and drafted in again for like a more complete second draft.
Okay, the reason I ask is then what we'll publish is what he comes out of following this meeting. Okay?
How, do we know what the turnaround time on that is going to be?
Oh, I have no holidays or anything coming up, so I could probably turn that around, probably, honestly, like next week, probably.
Okay, so I have a request.
Hmm.
So the discussion that came up, I don't know if you were so I apologize, I don't recall if you were part of the conversation last time. There was a conversation of, even if it is a draft, is it a public document? It's a product that we've received, even if it's not complete. So basically, as the public wishes to see it, we are required to provide it to them. What I would love to have is that everything we get until it's finished says working draft, work in progress, something. I defer to the planning board chair as far as to what that language is. But every document that we have that is available to everybody, we need to clearly call out this is still a work in progress so that that expectation is set and managed as we meet our legal requirement to provide them that documentation. Anything you want to add to that?
And it has to have a date on it.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I have had any, I think I had maybe the month, unless I took it off, but,
I don't wanna go too far down this rabbit hole. What I just wanna make sure is that we have a draft,
mhm,
okay? That draft is gonna be out of date as of tonight,
right,
okay? So, after tonight, whether we get to page 10 or page 20, wherever we get to, there's gonna be some additions, corrections, comments, changes, whatever. That document, it should be the one that goes on the webpage.
And that should be able to be done just with a footer that has the current date in it,
mhm,
and
yeah.
for date tracking.
And I apologize, I thought I had a watermark on there that said working draft, but I'm looking at it now and it doesn't,
bold.
so, yeah, it should be,
I put it right at the top.
it should be on every single page,
Yeah.
the way that
It
we're.
has to be on every
Yeah,
single page.
and, yeah, so I apologize, I thought it was on there, but apparently. I
Well,
didn't put it, so.
you know, if it's just for us, that's one thing, but now it's going out to the
Right,
public, it needs to be
well, I wanted it on there even for,
very
For the board,
clear and concise, that it's a working document as of this date, and it's there, and it's fluid and
yep,
changing.
totally agree, so, thank you for
okay.
pointing that out, though.
All right, so, and the only place that's gonna be available is on the webpage.
That sounds good to me, I can put a draft
And
on
then
there
what I'll
right
do
now.
is I'll just have to update that link as it is updated each
Yeah,
time.
because we probably aren't gonna talk growth policy again for a couple of meetings because of what's coming up,
Fair enough, understood.
okay? Sandy, go ahead.
That was it?
All right, thank you. Any questions for Sandy?
I was just gonna ask on the Alpine RV, parking, is there still an issue with them getting DEQ approval? And how is the water sewer situation being addressed? Particularly the sewer, because I don't think they have sewer connections.
As we know, an RV park is considered by the state a subdivision, so they went through the rules, and they do have water. Because the dump station is within a half a mile, they are not required to have sewer. So that's where they are.
Okay. So they're gonna have to pack up and go down to the town pump
Yep,
every couple of days or so.
there was a queue there this morning.
Okay.
Yeah. There
Anything-
was some discussion about seeing if the dump that was at the Chamber of Commerce could be upped again,
Yeah.
because we know that there's only one in town and
Yeah.
it's always got a queue.
All right, anything else for Sandy? Thank you. Marie's not here, she's dealing with rodeo tonight, so she wrote, and down as an excused absence if that's important. Okay, we don't have any new business, so we'll go to old business. I'm gonna go out of order again, Greg, if that's okay. Downtown, master plan update, is that gonna come from you? Is it gonna come from Kevin, or who's it gonna come from?
Is Chad online?
Chad had sent an email that
Oh,
said he wasn't gonna make it
Yeah.
due to a conflict, but he
Kevin?
said Kevin would be able to update.
Yeah, and I worked in buildings today, and so I had an extensive talk with Chad, and he just kind of let me know not much has happened since last meeting. If I remember right, he said just kind of like gonna start gearing up towards that, I believe, the stakeholder meeting.
Yeah.
Is that in September? Is that?
Well, that was gonna be, our question is, have we started to think about possible dates? And we ought to have, a couple of options of which we can pick from. And will those dates come from Chad, or will they come from us, or will they be discussed? Because we're getting on into July now, and so it'd be nice if we could have some projected dates out there.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that today. I mean, I
I
could
think that
definitely
you
ask.
put that on your list to discuss and come at us
Yeah.
with
We definitely
some
can.
recommended.
Does the board have a way that they wanna go, do you want to put some dates out, or do you want Chad to?
Well, it's important that you guys are there.
Right,
Okay,
But-
so
but
I would say,
facilitate the
look
dates.
at your schedules.
Yeah.
Give us a selection of dates, 3 dates maybe?
Yeah.
3? Susan?
You mean, so we'll be able to choose which one?
Yeah, so we can
people
see
can
which
work
kind of best fits,
Our schedule
Yeah.
as well.
our
Mhm.
schedules.
And are we considering, a venue such as the Roosevelt?
Yeah, and that's gonna take some time, whether it be the Roosevelt or the senior center, so we'll have to figure out what's available. Okay, Chad? Anything else on,
sorry, just making sure I don't forget any of that.
Yeah.
No, I think that was it. It was very,
Okay.
very loose. Like,
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
Careless.
yeah, Greg?
Just as a reminder, kinda, the downtown master plan, the forum was gonna occur in September, was kind of the discussion. And I know you're just
Yeah,
trying to make sure it's on track, but to bring Kevin in.
I think that's a good point. We'd like to target sometime in September.
Yeah.
And kind of the agreement was
Yeah.
Great West was gonna spearhead it and bounce stuff off the board.
Perfect. We can do.
You wanna make it December or January, that'd be fine with me, because I'm gonna be gone.
That was your thought, here. I did it.
Okay, so sometime in September,
Okay,
if possible.
that sounds great. Got it written down. I'll talk to Chad.
Do we care if it's a weekday or a weekend?
Depends on who's gonna be attending. If you're talking merchants, it would be better on a weekday than a weekend.
I agree. Okay? All right,
I think Mr. Chair.
anything else on downtown master plan? Okay.
That's all I know.
All right, so now we go to growth policy, and, Greg or Kevin, do you want to start us off as to where we are? What I'd like to do is hear your comments to date based on what we've done, and then, I know that, each of the planning board members have gone through it, if not all the way through, at least to page 20 or 25 or so is what I've been hearing. So I'd like to, go through it page by page once you're done. And then, we'll stop it at about, 7:15 and call it a night for that, and then move on. Those of you at the public, as we go through these discussions, we're gonna go off the rail a little bit. If you have something that you really feel like you need to contribute, please raise your hand, and I will try to recognize you accordingly. Okay? All right, Greg, how do you wanna do this?
So Jeremy said he's available to share it. I also emailed it to Kevin.
Yep.
So they both have a copy of the combined,
Yep.
complete comments from what I received. So it might make sense for Kevin to do it since he's here.
Yep, nope, Jeremy just started doing it.
Or, all right.
That's good, Jeremy's.
So Jeremy, are you gonna start with us?
No, I just wanted to share it, so I think it's fine if you want Kevin to start off. I apologize, I mean, just, I haven't had a chance to look through them, so I've been kind of waiting for all of the comments to come in before I start doing any kind of review, just for efficiency purposes.
Okay,
Once we get all the comments compiled, then I will do one last final review of everything, basically, so.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe we're gonna go through it page by page to start with, huh?
Yeah, that works for me. So I have Greg just emailed me the comment page, so I got it in front of me as well. Once I got back to the screen. First of all, I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm sorry that I missed the last meeting. I had a pre-planned vacation. So thank you for humoring me on the 2020 goals, going through those. I wish I would have done that before sending the draft, because it did open my eyes on goals and objectives that maybe were still ongoing that need to get incorporated, which I tried my best to do in this draft.
Yeah.
But it would have been a lot easier if I would have done that the first place.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of an error on my part.
It was interesting, the comments you got from us were fairly consistent across the board. There was a lot of agreement there.
Right, and that's why with that, I didn't want to go through and try to figure out what had been completed or was still ongoing, because you guys are here, you guys know what's going on way better than I do, but.
All right, so
But
let's just start, you take the lead, but let's go through it page by page, and then we're gonna allow everybody to make their comments after you've made the comments that you've already recorded.
Yeah, that sounds great. So starting on the title page, so there were some comments. I had some spelling errors. Looks like there was a comment under Polly Richter, and it says, appoint to be named 626. So I'm not really sure what that comment means, I think.
They're probably no longer on the
Should be
Okay.
going on the board.
board, and a new appointment was been made the other night, but it's been postponed to now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect. I can make that update.
Did you get the update on my name?
Yep, Sandy pointed that out. I can't believe that I misspelled that.
So
I'm sorry.
what we'll do on that is you'll take Polly off, and once we have the new board member appointed, we'll add him or her, well, it's gonna be
Yep,
him.
I'll just throw some brackets in there and
Yeah,
appoint
to be named.
later and highlight it so we
To be
don't
named,
go
okay.
past it.
Out.
Yeah.
If this is a work in progress, can we scratch out the September 8th date? Because people will see that and they'll think, oh, we're gonna have this done by that date. It's gonna be adopted, blah, 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 blah.
Just put a line.
Yep,
Just
can definitely do that.
put it to be determined.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can definitely do that. That was more of a placeholder from
Right.
taking the template, so I can definitely take that out.
Just put it to be determined.
Yep. And then we did discuss earlier, I will add in the footnotes, dates for, each draft, like revision. So then
Okay.
when they go online, everybody will know what day we're on.
Okay,
So that should take care of the first page. So as we get into it more as well, we'll turn it over to our design team, and they'll,
Yeah.
the actual formatting will be all fixed. I'm not a Microsoft Word wizard, so I'm gonna let somebody else do that.
and also, so we can move this along, I know there's some spelling errors, I know there's some grammar errors, I know there's some punctuation errors, and so what I really wanna talk about is content tonight, okay? And the format will take care of itself. Is that all right with everybody?
All
Okay.
right, cool. With that being said, moving on to the next page for the table of contents. My biggest question, looks like, yeah, there's a formatting comment. My biggest question is, that kind of lays out the structure. Did everybody have a chance to review that, and do they like the structure? Do you want to see anything moved around, maybe things of importance moved up into the draft? Or vice versa, anything?
Structure, okay, yeah, Teresa?
Yeah, so inconsistency in section 7, natural resources, and other places it's natural and cultural resources, and, it's all over the board. Can we just have it one way?
Yep.
Every place? Because I think that does.
So how do you want it?
Natural
We were
and
talking about in terms of natural and cultural resources
Okay,
moving forward.
so it should be natural and cultural
Yep.
resources, good comment. Okay,
can
I
do.
thought we would do the table of contents when we're all done, just to make sure that that's what we need.
but he's looking at structure
Is
here.
this a predetermined
Yeah.
table of contents that has to be?
No, not necessarily. I'm just, the way that I have it laid out in this draft, you,
Oh, yeah.
kind of asking the board, just,
Yeah.
do things need to be moved around? Like, do you want to see housing moved down or up or anything like that?
The order of things or the general,
But the document
Yeah.
follows that.
Yeah.
okay.
But that's a
Moving
great
on to
comment.
page 3 of 68.
3, and that's more or less more, of the table of contents. I did add recently, went in and, took away some of the older maps in the table of contents and started updating it for the new maps that we have prepared for this, that I didn't have a chance to incorporate into this draft.
And I was curious where you got these maps, because I think one of them is really a tax-based map. It isn't really city, it isn't in the city,
What we want to do is take care of the maps once we get through this, do the maps separately.
We can do it, yeah,
Yeah.
we can do that. We'll come back to
I
those.
didn't know where these came from.
Yeah, we can address that later, so. Then,
I wanted to, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, moving on to page 4, if you
No.
want to stop real quick.
Under, the appendix, because we should need to add the downtown master plan, there's an appendix.
Yep, and I got that updated this week.
Okay.
Just, you're not seeing it on this one since it's.
And how about the airport master plan, should that be on there?
I think it should. That was a good idea. Yeah, I left that off, looking at the other, like the 2020, didn't reference that,
And
and so
the,
we can reference.
and the, Red Lodge, water source delineation, what is that? The 2003 Red Lodge source water delineation assessment, is that an appendix also, or no?
Is it I'm seeing, I got the 2009 Red Lodge North Corridor study. Are you looking in the table of contents?
I'm looking under section 8, implementation,
Oh.
the appendixes. And we've added appendix for the downtown master plan, we've added an appendix for the airport master plan, which, has that not been approved yet, has it, Dave?
Does not exist yet, correct.
Okay. And then I noted on here the 2003 Red Lodge source water delineation, I don't know what that is,
I've never heard of
I've
it
never
before
heard of
either.
so skip that.
So, that was, I believe, was incorporated in the 2020 version. I think as just a link in
Could
the
be.
document, so,
All right,
and I think when I had Chad review it before we, sent you guys the draft, and I think he even had a comment that was like, we either need to update this or
okay,
that, but I hadn't had, or didn't have a chance to get that taken out before sending it to you
Okay.
guys, so I can definitely,
but you're gonna add those other two,
yes.
okay?
Yep.
Are you gonna add links? You're not gonna add the whole document, please?
No, so that was, we can add the whole document in the appendice. I was kind of confused in the 2020 why there was a link in the hard copy document,
Because,
because it was hard copy, so the link doesn't matter.
or it'll be 300 pages.
So it's kind of, that would, I guess, would be up to you guys, if you guys want the full appendices with the full documents, or if you want them just noted,
What are your thoughts, link,
because that does
Jeff, or,
create a quite.
have it part of the document?
I wonder, well, or have it kind of separately, a hot link in the body of the document, but then also have, so there's gonna be hard copies available at the city hall, I would guess. But somehow to manage it so that somebody that has a hard copy of the growth policy primary, the main document, can hit a link, or, well, actually, it won't be a link, but they can type in the
They can
link
type it
to.
in.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and board, I think I would recommend just to not actually do the full documents, because if you're looking at file size, when you put it on the website, it's gonna be way too big.
Do that thick.
The public's gonna open it up and see a 1,000-page document, they're not even
Yeah.
gonna read it, so I think links are the way to go.
I really think that, Sandy's comment is right on, we'll just link it. link all those documents. Dave, do you have a thought on that?
I think there's certainly an advantage to posting it that way, but the hard copy, we will have a hard copy that will be printed out and it can be bound all together, even if there's a link that's of no use to the hard copy. But so there's a concept in Word, I know you said there's a concept in Word called the master document, where you can have a document and then those are like sub-documents that get pulled in, same sort of a concept. So.
But what I want to avoid is, right now, this is our growth policy. And it refers to some appendix in here
That aren't there. Right, and I think that printed copy should include hard copies of everything.
So that's gonna be a pretty thick document.
I do not disagree.
But the online
But
version,
we're not gonna have 100 copies of it either. It'll be online and you can jump and go to everywhere.
Okay.
The other thing that's not on here is the zoning map.
I'm sorry?
Are we gonna put the zoning map on the appendix?
No, I think the zoning map needs to be in the.
so we will have that,
Yeah.
in the maps that we're making with Great West.
So what
We do
you
have
say
a
is
copy of
that
the
appendix
map.
1 is on paper and appendix 2 is a link, because the 3 is a link, because the 4 is a link. Is that what you're thinking?
We could even we'd have appendix 8, the maps would actually be in the plan.
Yeah.
Or we could incorporate the maps in the plan as they come up, so the land use section has anything.
I like that idea.
I really
So,
like that.
and we do that typically with other growth policies that we prepare. The reason why I set it up this way is because that's kind of what the 2020 version
Okay,
was.
I like
So-
that part.
What was that?
So I can get that updated, that's no problem at all.
So the copy that the members get will have everything in it, right? The hard copy? The members. And then you'll have copies available here that people can, and then they can go online and they can link to whatever they want to link to. Okay. We good?
Yep.
All right, page 4.
All right, so moving into the introduction. So I included the first section in here is what is a growth policy, and we are kind of diving into, kind of setting it up so anybody in the public can open it up and see in the first couple pages, like, what exactly a growth policy does is not very common. A lot of residents will even know what a growth policy is, so, but it looks like we do have some comments.
Some of them were
But it looks
spelling
like
and
they're-
grammar, and you got those, right?
Yep. Yep, so grammar stuff, that should be easy to take care of. The next one down, sustaining a sense of place. This one was taken out of the 2020 version, this, little section. So it more or less is giving just a little bit more detail about Red Lodge.
But I like Jeff's comment here about inserting small town and historic western character in place of western character. Did you get that?
Yep, that's an easy change.
Okay.
Then looks like the other comments from Jeff were, well, it was, infrastructure and services. I can make that change down towards
Okay.
the bottom. The other one looks like it was a typo. We got that. Then moving on, we have the planning area. So this is actually describing what this growth policy is gonna encompass. So that's gonna be your city limits.
And you got another grammar change there.
Yep.
Okay.
Grammar change.
Anything on page 4 before we move on? Are we going too fast? I hope.
So moving on,
Page 5.
to the planning effort, so this is also where we had a comment about adding like the airport plan, even though it's still in progress. Let's see, Teresa, your comments about adding any other plans that were developed before 2020. We definitely can, I would say if they're still active.
They're active unless they're still active, they're just not updated as of 2020. They might be
Yeah.
overdue for an update, but that's all we have.
Yep, I can definitely get those I will probably need your help just kind of listing out every single thing. I've gone through the website, but just in case I'm missing anything.
Okay.
Which will be great, because if they do need to get updated, then we can encompass that potentially in the goals and objectives, so.
For instance, I think the urban forestry management plan was cited later in the document of 2009. That was adopted 2018.
2018, okay.
Adopted 2018.
That we can definitely,
And you did change the downtown revitalization plan to downtown master plan.
Right,
I had not done that yet. I knew that it needed to be done, but I hadn't done it
Yep.
yet, so thank you.
and how we doing, Jeff, we okay?
Yep.
Susan?
Of course it is.
Is the airport plan added to that list as well?
Yep. We can get that.
Although the city didn't develop, when you write down there the major plans that the city has developed, we did not develop the airport plan. Did we?
We do not, that's done by an outside company, and
So
I'm
should that,
wondering how many of these others like that too, so that have been developed on behalf of the city or for the city, or
does it matter?
your
Why don't we just say major plans that have been developed?
Yeah,
Or
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
or
Just leave
adopted,
the word.
adopted by the city.
What hasn't been
Mhm.
adopted?
I think the airport plan should be there then, right?
Yeah.
That's not adopted yet, but it's in progress.
Will the city be adopting the master airport plan?
It must, so yes, that before it is official, it must be adopted by council.
Is it the opinion of the board that airport should be there or not?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay,
So I think one thing to remember too is that this document, after it's adopted, it can still be amended. So even if we put in these in-progress plans,
yeah,
the board would just have to come back and
right,
amend it by saying, these are no longer in
Right.
progress, they're adopted by the city, so. Should be
okay.
a pretty easy process. All
Who's
right.
Jace Heimerman, by the way?
He's our intern.
Huh?
He's our intern.
Okay, okay,
He was out today, so I had to
all right,
throw in Jeff's comments.
okay. So moving on then, so I'm going too fast, holler. Preview of the Red Lodge growth policy, is that next?
Yeah, so the preview of the growth policy, it's kind of similar to the table of contents where it's just kind of laying out, it's gonna lay out the structure and then just like little brief summaries of what's going on in there. Looks like we had a comment from Teresa. I can definitely add, the dark night skies to the natural and cultural resources.
Okay.
That's not a problem. Looks like that was the only comment that we have there. Page 6 is blank, which will get probably jostled around when we do the more editing.
The only question that I had in here is, we cheat all the time with, WUI and all the little, can we please have it spelled out?
Yeah.
And then perhaps in parentheses, because we're not the only ones reading this.
That is a good point, and that's when I fall into the
I know.
acronym game. So, no, we can definitely do that. That's super easy, and I understand wholeheartedly.
By the way, Jeremy, if you got a comment on any of this, I hope you'll jump in the middle of this.
Oh, I will.
Right,
And I kind of had a question where this came from under population characteristics and economy. It says the analysis of employment, income, and poverty. Poverty, is there another way? Employment and, I don't know.
I would put income and then low to moderate income or something like that.
Yep, we're in the same boat. I was about to say the exact same thing.
I
Yeah,
just didn't like the
yeah, I didn't.
Yep.
Low to moderate.
Good comment, Jeremy, appreciate it.
Okay,
or how about all levels of income? Because we certainly have all levels of income too.
Yep, that can be changed.
okay.
All right, so then, yeah, page 6 is blank, and so moving on, we're gonna start getting into the good stuff here, the goals and objectives. So this is gonna be probably the most important section to go
Yeah.
through here, so good comments, and once again, thank you for everybody for going through the 2020 goals, but as I think Al pointed out, a lot of them are still ongoing.
Yeah.
So it would kind of be up to you guys if you want to still include that in there, or like listing out what's been achieved from 2020, or if you want to just take that section out. we, as like for Great West and some of the other, growth policies that we've done, we've left it in there because we've had other communities that will have, like, they've done some very like specific things. And so that was just kind of a holdover from like also using templates from other growth policies. But it's up to you guys on what you would like to see in that.
What's your thought, Jeff?
Well, maybe explain a little bit what you're talking about.
So,
I think it's important to carry forward goals that haven't been achieved yet, but also, you know, at least acknowledging those that have been completed or that are, you know, similar to how we kind of coded these in terms of the fact that some of the goals are kind of reaching a point where they need to be acted on. And then there's other goals that they're kind of ongoing and continuing, and those, you know, acknowledging what those are, I think is good. And then the other was, I guess, those that have been completed. I guess I'm not just acknowledging that some of the goals out of the previous growth policies have been achieved, I think is important as well.
Yeah, and there's some places there, I think it kind of overlaps a little with what you're saying, where there's a goal, and it may be an aspirational goal, or it may be something we've already taken care of. So to acknowledge that instead of saying, let's create a working group to do such and such, you could say, continue to maintain a working group that does such and such, and that way you won't be insulting the people that have been working on it full-time for 2 years, you know.
yeah.
So just little things like that would help.
Teresa?
You know, I didn't look at this the same way as having been goals that were achieved, because I thought, oh, it's all gonna be updated to goals, you know, that we're working toward, right? So, a lot of these also are continuously works in progress, and so I sort of, when I went through this and added comments, I treated it as if these were still goals to be reached.
Okay.
And so if we were to separate them out, I think there is value in saying this was achieved, because in the future, when another group of people is going through this again, we don't want flip-flopping. You know, maybe even if we do need flip-flopping for whatever reason, there's a record of what was done.
Or what we felt was done.
And why it was needed maybe in this document, as a history. And I think that is still valuable, but I didn't see that broken out here as achieved versus future goals.
Sandy?
Well, I'm still toying with the idea that we don't need to make this a 300-page document and pat ourselves on the back for everything that we've done. I mean, I'd rather get right into it with goals and objectives on the growth policy. I mean, if we carry some forward, we carry some forward. But I don't see the patting on the back as useful, but that's me.
The reason I bring it up is at the public forum, we had a question from several of the participants is, what have you accomplished?
Right.
And we kind of went, well, and I don't know how far back we need to go, but I think we did accomplish some things. I mean, the pool,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
the recycle center, and then maybe a couple other things too that come to mind.
Maybe we just don't need to be really detailed, that we could do it in a half a page or quarter page, especially the big items.
But as I read through the goals that you gave us, there was only 3 or 4 that I could highlight green that I sent you all that we actually did.
Mhm.
The rest of them, we were working toward, and there was a couple we hadn't started yet.
Mhm.
And that will always be there.
Yeah.
Most of them are ongoing, especially if it's about.
So let's do this. I mean, I've mentioned two. If the board members think of something that they think that we've really accomplished within, from the time of this document in 2020 to now, that you want in here, let's send it to, do we send it to Greg and you handle it, or how do we handle it?
Yeah,
Yep.
probably send it to
Well,
me,
send it to
so I
Greg,
keep the master.
And then that'll be our chain of
Yeah.
communication, yeah. All right, but there's at least two that I can think of if the board agrees, the recycle center and,
Yeah,
I mean, we updated the bylaws and we did a bunch of stuff like that, but I don't know if that's important.
Maybe street lights,
Huh?
maybe street lights,
Yeah,
you know, that was,
we've done some things with lighting, that's for sure.
yeah.
So, anyway, send that list to, Greg and, we'll incorporate them.
Perfect.
Yep.
I was just gonna add, I think, adding on to the comments you got at the forum was, you know, a lot of comments I get periodically is, what is a growth policy? What does it do? What's its purpose? And just the idea of being able to point somewhere in the growth policy, here's the things that were accomplished because of having a growth policy where they were. And I agree, I don't think it needs to be a long, extensive narrative. I think it could be accomplished in a table format or.
Yeah, just list them, I don't
Mhm.
need to go into a dialogue.
yeah, that was my intent was just doing a bulleted list.
Yeah.
And it would be like,
Yeah.
the pool and all that. 'Cause the way that I approach it is, anybody can write a policy, but it's like actually achieving the goals that have been brought forward. That's
And
what
and
makes
one
it
of the
good.
principles of the growth policy that we talked about is putting things in here that are achievable.
Yeah.
So,
So, but the goals from the 2020 though they were pretty broad.
yeah,
So I could dial it down and we could change it to 2020 actions that were achieved.
okay.
Something a little bit more narrow, 'cause some of the ones were like the energy conservation one. Well, that one's always gonna be.
But you sent the list of the 2020 stuff to everybody, and all the members came back at you with what they thought was current,
Yeah.
what they thought was, so I would use that document to highlight this, rather than have us go through it.
Again.
You know, you all sent that in to them, right?
I didn't send it.
No, I updated this instead, but.
But you know the document we're talking
I
about.
do. Yeah.
Sandy, you have
I'm
that, right?
gonna shorten it, yeah.
Okay, so
I'm gonna
you'll send
shorten
it,
it,
you'll
yeah.
send it to Greg.
Yeah.
And Sue, you did it, and Jeff did it, and I did it. I don't know if Marie did it or not, but anyway,
But-
you got,
That sounds
A start.
good. Yep,
Okay.
that's a good start. So, all right, so moving on.
Moving on.
Go to,
I had one more
Oh.
comment, I think, on that. Yeah, as I was reading through that list, it did strike me that a lot of those were action items as opposed to goals, and maybe making that distinction
Mhm.
might be helpful.
Yeah.
okay,
That's a good point. Which is what I tried to do here, so we start with kind of more of a broader goal in a sense, and then the objectives is when it gets little bit more narrow, and then the action is actually what we're gonna do to take care of that. So,
okay.
keep in mind, a lot of the goals and actions here, I kind of just added to create some dialogue between the
Yeah.
board. So moving on,
We're on the economy list now?
yep,
Okay,
let me find the first one. Looks like Teresa had one about adding the goal to redefine or adjust what bring people to Red Lodge other than restaurants and bars, especially months, or especially in should months, or make a plan for those months.
Shoulder month, sorry.
Oh,
I
shoulder
think
months.
I got correct, autocorrect.
That's all right. Some events have faded away, snowfall on mountain, not what it used to be, et cetera, so. And that's in regard to the first economic goal of sustaining and strengthen the economic well-being of the city's residents. And so I only had one objective written in, and that was, facilitate the retention and expansion of existing businesses and new businesses.
okay, and Teresa wants to add something to that.
Well, I don't know how to word it, but I'm just thinking, I don't know how you facilitate that unless you're part of the chamber or
Yeah.
the business alliance, but
So it may not be achievable.
I don't know how you
And-
would state that as an objective or a goal, or as a goal.
So that's where, for that one, just for example, I put for the action item, this is skipping ahead because we might have to go back and forth to make it make sense, but I put, utilize the efforts of the RC&D to determine economic sectors of focus for Red Lodge to promote the expansion of existing businesses and the development of new businesses.
Perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
I think there could be a lot of support of businesses, such as signage is a good support mechanism for businesses. I don't know what you want to do with
So-
that, but that would be to facilitate.
That could also kind of fall a little under land use, because then we might start talking about updating the zoning regulations to allow for this X type of signage in this zoning district or in the downtown area, something of that nature. So that's we could get that and kind of work it down a little bit further so we can make sure that we have the mechanism to actually help,
Businesses.
yeah.
Through zoning.
Yes. So I could add, for the next draft, I could add something similar to that, and we could go through and,
Yeah.
all right, so.
My question is why, under the goals, you have the headings, why do we need E1, E2, E3, E4?
So the reason why we do it like that is because when you skip ahead to the action plan,
Yeah,
there's gonna be multiple goals might be taken care of by the same action.
so you'll just say E1, E2, E3?
Yep, so
Somebody
for-
have to flip back and forth?
Yeah, so for that one example, for E2, I also put that same goal, or the same action could take care of that one. But we could also then break it up and get a different action
Okay.
for the next one down.
Yeah,
I want to say, I like this format and the structure of the numbering. It reminds me of what was done for the ECP, the conservation plan,
mhm,
the energy conservation plan, and then each of those maps to a project as well, or an action.
Okay.
item. So I think it's great.
And that was our goal, was to make it so the residents could open it up and in the first,
okay,
Yeah.
10 pages say, here's all the goals, here's
Yeah.
all the actions. They don't have to read the entire document to
Jeff,
find out.
Susan,
one
you're
thing.
all right with the E1, E2, E3? Okay. All right,
Okay,
scratch that.
all right, so that was the comment on that one. We had one, skipping ahead to E3, there was a comment. Actually, we might have multiple comments, so. Okay, so Al, I just seen your comment
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
numbering.
Yeah,
Some of these are buried behind other ones.
okay.
Okay, so the next one,
And you got,
comment on
with-
E3.
you got, Teresa's about adding, including the Roosevelt Center, you got that?
Oh, I don't know if I did see that. That one might be hidden.
Before, it's just an add-on to B.
Oh, okay. For E3B,
Yeah,
that one, okay.
E4, B.
E4B, okay.
and
Yeah.
Susan's wanted to make sure Red Lodge Business Alliance was in there instead of downtown associate, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
You see that?
And
Yep.
then- And then the art walk, narrative that I gave, which of course is way too long, but it refers to, not specifically, but Roosevelt Center is the one that is, let's see, energized by, they organized it, they put together the maps, and then they recruit various merchants to help. So
okay,
that's
It fits with
part
my
and parcel
comment,
with
that,
that.
yeah.
okay, perfect. Yeah, we can get that added.
All right,
All right.
move on to housing.
Yep. Housing, so for the housing, I put one goal and a lot of objectives. Just the current state of housing in Montana, just providing housing options for all cities residents. That's basically the goal that's every single city has right now and across the whole state. Does that work for you guys, or do you want to narrowed down.
The city will work to identify ways to provide housing. The city's not gonna provide housing, we're gonna encourage,
Can get that
but
changed.
we're not gonna be providing the housing options unless Dave's got extra money that I'm unaware of. We can provide some housing options? Okay, no.
Yeah, no, that's an easy change. We can get that.
Yeah, there's several
Providing
comments from
for-
members there. You wanna make sure you got yours in there, Jeff?
What's that?
You had several comments on there, and as did Teresa. You wanna make sure they're in there.
Yeah, well, my comment had to do with the, objective under D. It talks about, assisted living facilities, and, I wanted to maybe expand that, to include, strategies for, aging in place as a topic of last fall's forum as an alternative to assisted living facilities. So, I wanted to somehow incorporate that idea that isn't just assisted living facilities, but there are alternatives such as, developing programs or services that would facilitate aging in place options.
And would we want to keep that all in one objective with the assisted living, or would you want it split and have two different objectives?
It might be sufficiently different that it might be worth splitting into two separate objectives.
Yeah,
You okay with that?
we can do that.
Yeah, sounds good. And
I actually had pursue the development of assisted living facilities and all other options for the city's aging population. Because there's lots of other options
Mhm.
besides that.
Just, yeah.
Jeff, any other comments that you wanna make?
That was all I had.
Teresa?
yes, mine was a very slight comment, but to me, it's significant. The terminology keeps shifting on us. I favor the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Our thoughts are guided by the words we use. Everybody hears affordable or workforce and rolls their eyes, and so I've been hearing lately that the more popular concept is to provide community housing, meaning, much more than just affordable, but it could include everything.
Workforce,
Community
affordable.
housing that supports the full community and the spread of, the demographic.
Where do you see that?
Thinking more of the term affordable kind of has almost like a negative connotation now.
Well, what's your affordable and?
What is
mine's
affordable?
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
That's the real problem with
So
yours.
I like
Yeah.
community housing because it seems to be the new trend and opening, people's thoughts to what is community, and we can define that
Could
through
we
this
use,
document.
a word like adequate housing for the community, and that,
Community
I
housing.
would think that would fill in.
And I think that we should make an effort if we start using community housing to define community housing within this. Or at least
Can't
have
call
it,
it housing.
become a thread, something that lives throughout the document and to bring.
I like that. Jeff, are you okay with that?
Yep.
Susan?
I think so.
Sandy?
Moving away from the term affordable, and then what was the second term?
And/or workforce.
Workforce, okay.
Everybody thinks workforce is just, your restaurant servers, and it's not. It's like, Jeff had a comment that expanded on that too, that it's your teachers, your
Hospital
CNAs, your,
workers.
yeah, all kinds of employees. It's
Everyone
not
who
just,
works in the city.
right, it's your community workers, it's your community volunteers.
But at some point, I think your point is we need to define it. Is there gonna be a glossary in here, in this document?
I was not intending on one, but we can add one.
The reason I say that is that we've heard as much on that subject as we have had on any other subject about affordable and workforce and so forth. If all of a sudden those words go away, people are gonna say, oh, I forgot about it. So if we put in community and the definition includes those things, then maybe we can deflect some of that
Right.
We could put a
This is what we're
glossary in the,
about.
This is what we're about, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, we could put a glossary in the appendices.
Yeah, so community, when you define community housing, make sure you put in there affordable work for all the buzzwords.
Well, I suppose we don't necessarily need to do a glossary, but we could do just a quick
Or
couple
maybe a
sentence
star,
definition.
maybe a star under here, what,
Yeah,
put it
Yeah,
in
we
there
can-
where you think it's appropriate, but I think
it'll probably be seen more than a glossary.
we don't wanna totally ignore those two terms because they are part of the daily vernacular now,
Yeah, definitely.
okay?
All
So
right.
one thing that I've done in the growth policies we've done is, rather than say affordable, also we like to say encourage a variety of housing types and densities to support different income levels or something like that. That way
think-
the growth policy, you're encouraging a variety of housing types for all different income levels, rather than just a specific income level.
I really like that.
It's not just income
What?
though, it's,
That it's a variety of housing.
yeah,
Yeah, variety of community housing or just a variety of housing?
Variety of housing,
to support the community, the whole community.
that housing
Yeah.
does.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're getting
Yeah,
there,
that works for me.
we're getting there.
Yep.
But you want to include, senior housing, for example.
That's a
A
variety.
variety of housing to service the entire community,
There
something
you
like
go.
that.
Yeah.
A variety of housing to service the entire community. Moving on.
All right.
Anything else on that before we go to,
Under G, it says encourage new housing development. Provide clear and safe access for emergency vehicles. We have to have that in here? I mean, that's part of our,
We have building code that requires that.
exactly, yeah, I don't see it as a growth policy goal.
where are you, Sandy?
Under G,
G, then the next
What?
one down.
under G,
Oh, I'm
encourage
sorry.
new housing development
Right.
to provide clear and safe access for emergency vehicles.
Under
That's part of
G.
your regulation.
Yeah, and
Yes, that is.
it doesn't seem to need to be here.
Yeah, so for that one, the action item that I added for that was review the subdivision regulations and street design standards to ensure that new housing developments have adequate rights of way to provide safe access for emergency vehicles. So it's like an,
Related to subdivision.
yeah, so it'd be kind of more, I suppose that one could be considered more of like an ongoing, like you're always gonna wanna review the subdivision regulations, want to make sure that they're up to statute, which is also, I think I included in another one, so we could probably cut one out. Because it does, because I think down in land use, I have an action for, amend the subdivision regulations to comply with state statute.
Yeah.
It does kind
Cover
of
that.
cover both, so I could take one out of
I don't
housing,
mind
one.
being in there twice, personally.
I was gonna say redundancy
Huh?
could be helpful.
I don't remind the redundancy.
I'm going for less is better, less is more.
Susan, what do you think?
Well,
Huh?
since we just had to incorporate the subdivision regulations into the, growth policy to make sure it was point on with what the state said, I think we ought to have whatever is in there as close to the state's wording as anything we could possibly have, because we don't want.
Do you mind having it in two places?
Have to do it again, it'd be okay to have it in two places. But if we were to, oh, I don't like the way this is worded too much, then, we could put ourselves, I would be fearful we could put ourselves into jeopardy with respect to whether this growth policy is now adequate and consistent with what the state had intended when they said to add that piece.
Mhm. Jeff?
Well, I kind of looked at this a little bit differently. One, I don't mind repeating something. I think it just ensures that there's consistency with other goals and objectives that are in the document, and it doesn't take up that much space. And the other, comment, I guess, that I thought, in looking at this, there's another aspect of this that beyond the access for emergency vehicles in terms of the fact that we have an active transportation plan that is promoting, encouraging safe and multimodal transportation connectivity throughout the community. And if we're gonna take, maybe this needs to be expanded a little bit to encourage new housing developments to provide multimodal infrastructure to facilitate walkable and pedestrian-friendly neighborhoods. Beyond just the safety and health aspect of that.
So do you have some-
Actually, there's a health aspect.
Do you have some suggested wording there, or no?
I don't, this just came to mind as we
Okay.
were talking about it. But as I guess, since it's gonna come up again under land use, and it's gonna come up again under the subdivision, and it is consistent with what we currently have in our growth policy in terms of goals and objectives relative to providing multimodal transportation. So I don't have any wording to suggest to you other than maybe incorporate some of that into item underneath G or something.
My question is on the word encourage.
Thank you.
I mean, do we want housing developments to provide clear and safe access for emergency vehicles? Yes.
Change it to require
Yeah.
developers.
Can we require it?
If it's in the subdivision regulations, it should be required anyway, in the.
See, encourage says, okay, you encourage me, but I don't have to do that. So I don't like the word encourage.
Yeah, we can definitely take that out.
I agree.
But can we do that? Dave?
We can.
You want me to be an attorney now?
No, I mean, if.
Jeremy?
Yes, you-
Jeremy, can we require new housing developments to provide clear and safe access for emergency vehicles?
Yes, you can.
Of course we can.
Then I
So,
think that's what we.
So one part of this is, the growth policy is just a policy. It's not a regulation. But as
Right.
part of the subdivision regulations and subdivision review process, the planning board is tasked with reviewing a subdivision against the goals and objectives of the growth policy. So the growth policy is part of the subdivision process. And so, yes, I would say if you want, encourage is, not a very strong wording, right? Require is very strong wording. So, if you want to require something or, use stronger wording than just encourage, because that can just get, think of it from a developer's point of view. If they're submitting a subdivision application to the city and there's a objective or goal that says, well, we're just going to encourage this, that gives them wiggle room, right? That gives them a little bit of wiggle room to say, well, your growth policy doesn't really require this. It just says you're going to encourage it. So if it's something that you want to make sure that they provide, then just say provide new housing development, or require new housing developments. Make those very strongly worded. And then the other thing I was going to say is, I believe, Jeff, there is a comment in that you provide, that's in the Word document that does say encourage developers to incorporate the city's active transportation goals for safe pedestrian and bicycle connections between neighborhoods and the commercial district and the schools. So I think you could just add that as another objective. So make that item H underneath the emergency access ones, but say require developers to incorporate the city's active transportation goals or something like that.
Yeah. Dave?
Mr. Chair, so my thought is, and I appreciate the discussion of the require versus the suggest or encourage or something. I'm kind of wondering where the balance line is, because the reality is going back to the main overreaching goal, we want there to be development for a wide number of housing options. We want to increase inventory for this category, this category, this category, and this category. That is, to a point in a comment that was made earlier, that's private industry who's going to solve that problem for us. It's not the city. I think requiring is fine, and I think it's okay, but I think we need to look at it in balance and make sure that we're not making something so onerous that nobody's going to come in and help us with the higher level overall goal.
Well, how about the word provide rather than require?
I don't know what that suggestion is. Jeremy, did my comment make sense? And is there a suggestion in there that's a little bit more, we want this, but our goal is not to make it cost 3 times as much to build everything, because then nobody's going to come in and build it.
But you don't want to have a subdivision that's not safe.
I agree 100%. I look forward to
Yeah,
seeing what this board.
I agree, there is a balance. You know, I think, you know, there's specific objectives in here like this, like the emergency vehicles, safe access for emergency vehicles. I think that's a very specific objective that the subdivision regulations already achieve or should achieve when we update them, right? And that ties into fire code, building codes, stuff like that, stuff they already have to do anyway. So I think that one, as a require, I think is a good one. This is where we just need to talk through a few of these and just see which language works better.
Well,
I think
let's
on
put
this require is
in the next-
good.
Let's put require in the next draft and see how it flies.
Yeah, and
I
then
think-
on the city's active transportation goals one, you know, when we add that objective in, maybe we say, maybe that is an encourage, you know, not necessarily a require, but you know, it allows the planning board to at least look at a subdivision application against the active transportation goals and say, yes, you know, they're providing some of these, right?
Okay.
They don't necessarily need to do all of the goals in the active transportation plan, but at least they're doing some of it. And so we're okay with this.
All right, Teresa?
So, I mean, I'm stepping back. This is a growth policy, it's not an ordinance. We have a set of building codes, we have regulations already that have been codified. What about the word as a backup or interchangeably ensure? Because what we're doing here is we're balancing our goals
Yeah.
for the future against the ordinances and regulations that exist, which may change. So we should be looking at the two of those together and ensuring that this is following our growth policy.
I kind of like that word too. I do. Jeff?
I mean, if we can't say require, we say ensure. I mean, we can say.
Sandy, are you with,
I like require. I mean, we're going to require new housing developments to provide clear and safe access for emergency vehicles.
It's already a requirement.
It is a requirement, but a lot of this is redundant.
Well,
and-
so
and
that's why I'm
pointed.
saying, some of it is not a requirement, like it's,
Some of it's
and
encouraged.
some of it needs, maybe it's ensure versus require, but
Okay.
not encourage.
okay,
Well, I think the ensure word would go well with the active transportation objective.
okay, you got that?
Got that.
And require with this fire code,
Yeah.
emergency vehicles, okay?
All right, the next one down says encourage. So we're gonna have to change that. It says encourage efforts by the private and nonprofit sectors to build affordable housing for ownership or long-term rentals.
But encourage is a good word for that.
And are we gonna change affordable
Yeah.
housing to our new
Yep,
terminology?
Teresa made the comment, add community, or
Yep.
new terminology.
Okay,
Perfect. And-
good discussion. Are we ready to move on to land use? All right,
Sure, I got everybody's under there.
all right, land use.
Yeah, yep, okay.
We got several comments under that one.
Yeah, so Susan had a comment that said, Red Lodge already has a historic neighborhood overlay district, more than one could be added as there are multiple areas with histories dating pre-1900. So that's going with the first land use goal, maintain the historic
Right.
character of the city,
Right,
that was a pretty hot topic at the community forum. maintaining the historic structures, so. The
Yeah.
first, well, I guess the next, the A through C, we didn't have any comment, or we had one on C.
Yeah, see,
Yep,
create a comment.
yep, looks like,
We don't create design standards.
yeah, so would that's something that the city would just not wanna adopt any design standards for historic structures, for like infill development in the historic neighborhoods?
We have requirements for painting on Main Street, specific paint colors on Main Street. But other than that, in our historic overlay, like in the Hybug, we don't have any, requirements for paint or any of the other. We don't regulate it at all, except for what you can and can't do in that district. So I'm having trouble with design standards.
Yeah, so that would be something that if the city wanted to, they would have to go through and amend the zoning regulations and create that design standard for the overlay district. Doesn't seem like that
Do we
is
wanna
something
do-
that wants to be
Do we
done.
wanna do that?
I don't.
So
That would be a heavy public process, so.
Courtney actually did create he posted a document that, was in keeping with the colors or the use of colors in a fashion that were used together historically out on the website. So that's something that we haven't, that it's not become a regulation or anything, but it's a guiding
Who approved
type
that?
of, I don't know.
I mean, it was just Courtney?
I don't know if she took it against the historic, you
I don't
know,
either.
board
I've never heard
or
of
not. It's been out there.
Is that still out there?
I don't know
Yeah,
if it's still
well,
out there.
it's been part of the conditional use, the review that goes before the historic society. You go to them when there's wiggle room, and you have them look at what your plans are and determine whether it's consistent with the other stuff that was in that historical period, in that historical neighborhood.
Material, color, styles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it has not been, I don't think it's been a firm requirement because of the way things come through. But
Yeah, I don't remember any specific situations where somebody
Is that us, the planning board?
was turned down, but maybe
Well-
where they,
not everything in
Article
here
is-
is a action for the planning board. So maybe it's an encourage item.
Well, the next one actually covers it, ensure the new development continue the historic architectural neighborhood image. And I would drop C and rely on D.
Jeff?
Yeah, I was gonna change the create to ensure or encourage.
How about just dropping C and
But,
just
yeah,
moving
now
D to
that-
C?
Well, I didn't look, now that you mentioned that D might actually cover it, ensure new
Teresa,
development.
you all right with that?
I'm okay with it too, yeah.
Sandy?
Yep.
Stephen?
So,
yeah, I think it's a good approach.
Scratch C.
scratch C, perfect.
We're covered under D.
Yeah,
All right.
okay.
Then moving on to what is now C, we had, Teresa said, change to ensure new development continues the historic architectural neighborhood image.
We're good.
Yeah, and that's a follow-up to what I was just saying, that there should be something published to help guide people as to what that is, right?
And who publishes that?
Probably have to be the city, I
Our
guess.
city planner.
It's
Uh,
historic architecture, so it'd be the historical,
Great.
it would be the historic society would be the one that says.
I asked the question because you put that in there. Do we
Yeah.
have to reference where they should look?
Well, I think it should be, if it's the historic, board down there that publishes it, maybe it's something the city could refer people to. Because I don't think anybody has any clue as to where to go to look for that.
Why don't you put, go ahead.
Could that be moved to an action item for C, instead of an objective?
Sure.
Because that could be part of it,
Yeah,
is
we have a
publishing.
plan.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay, I can get with that.
Okay, I like
Yeah.
that. Jeff?
So to clarify, we're keeping this statement, but then in the action items, we'll add an action item for creating a document.
You got that, Kevin? We're keeping C, but adding an action item.
But we're not the ones, who's going to do the document? I mean, isn't that the Historical Society
Yeah.
purview, not ours?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to get that, it's not, they don't know it yet, that that's a desire or a plan, but they will.
Well, we've relied on them before
Probably want their input.
for historical architecture, we have relied on them.
Dave?
Yeah.
Could the action item be consult with the historical and get their input? So it's not a
Yeah.
document, it's just, the action item is consult with party X.
Recommend to, consult with, whatever. Yeah, okay? Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Susan?
We have had a history of referring applicants to the Historical Society, especially regarding paint colors.
Okay,
That's almost a routine. If they come in and they ask what I need to do, that they will make sure you use an allowable paint color, and well, how do I know what it is? And then you introduce them to the Historical Society.
okay.
It hasn't just been paid, it's
No, it's
also been
other
if there's
stuff
been,
too.
if there's been a proposal to do a significant change to a historic building downtown's facade, that comes before the planning board as well. So-
Right.
So it's kind of,
So are we clear what we did here?
Yeah, yep, got that done. I don't know, this is just food for thought, but, and maybe it's getting into the weeds, but thinking of infill development in those districts, if there's any like brand new builds?
There aren't any vacant land.
Okay, because I was thinking that could be something that if there were, that would also need to be thought about, is how do you keep the historic with the brand new build, so. But if there's no vacant lots,
No,
then
no, no,
maybe
no.
this,
There is
This
a house
draft
to
is-
be ripped down.
there is a good example of how the historic character was used in a new building in downtown, and that's the new dental building.
Yes.
Which is the new
Yes.
building that was, where the developer was encouraged to adopt a design that's consistent with the historic downtown.
And they did that-
And he did.
Or they did that, the same with that office building that's next to the church, right?
Um,
It's got a bunch of offices in there, it's just north of the church, right?
Which church?
And you're talking about the chiropractic building that
Yeah.
has the big tall
Yeah.
thing that looks like a,
The old silo.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe not for this draft, but maybe something to think about
just for the.
in the
yeah.
next 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, we're only on page 8 here, and we got another
Yeah.
25 minutes.
Well, we knew it wasn't gonna be fast.
I'm trying.
All right.
Okay, moving to 9.
Moving on, page 9, land use, goal 2, improve the visual appearance of the city's entrances. Looks like Jeff had a comment for adding and view shed, particularly relevant to the west entrance along 78, north entrance on 212, and east entrance from 308. So, this one carry over from the 2020,
Yeah.
and will probably, I'm assuming, will be ongoing for quite some time.
Everybody agree with Jeff? I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. And
So then the next comment that we
wanted to
had,
add something.
was from Teresa, it said add and its historical characteristics after district.
Yep,
Can do, that's pretty easy. And then we had a couple for D. Teresa said add and through the city's main corridor after entrances.
yep.
And then,
I have trouble with D because it says pursue funding.
I'm sorry, Sandy, I didn't hear that.
What D has pursue funding,
Yeah.
goal,
would
it's an objective.
the word identify be better? Identify funding sources?
I would like identify.
Okay.
But I have a problem with C, again, create landscaping design. I don't know who's gonna create a landscaping design standard.
Yeah, so that would be another item that would have to be incorporated into the zoning
Yep.
districts, or the zoning regulations, so,
Right.
Yeah, that's math.
And is this in response to those comments that came from the forum? There was a comment
Yeah.
about landscaping.
yeah, there were quite a few.
I wanna
from that
avoid
out
words,
entrance.
words like that put the responsibility on, if the city has to create the design or where, you know, we don't wanna do that. We wanna encourage, we wanna recommend those types of things, but those are action items that I know this board doesn't want, and I would suspect that the council and the mayor doesn't wanna be responsible for creating designs and all that stuff.
Do you not disagree?
Okay, so
The
we're gonna,
C, take C out,
we'll take,
or do you want it reworked to anything else, I guess? We can take it.
encourage standards or, you know, those types, you know, there ought to be standards, but I don't know that we ought to create them.
Okay, well, on the city entrances, and we have something new, we do require landscaping. We don't have a landscaping design standard.
It's just reviewed upon
We
application.
just review upon application.
Yeah.
I mean, the only requirements we have to do with height and visual stuff, I mean,
Well, or that
those types of things.
not appropriate for our
Yeah.
climate. There's lots of, I don't want to create a landscape design, but I want to,
But keep
I'd like to
landscaping.
see a landscape design.
Well, we have a, urban
We have a-
forestry management plan, so we could encourage compliance with, or landscaping in compliance with the, what's the acronym? I'm not fast enough on an acronym now. Urban
Jeff knows what it is.
forestry management plan.
Jeff, we're in your
You know.
bailiwick here now, what do you think?
Believe me, I
I,
had to do it.
I agree with the comments about not creating a design standard, but we have been requiring a landscaping plan and as
Yeah.
part of the permit application. And our conditional use review and design review, actually, it's been more part of the design review. So I would say, I would wanna keep something in here addressing landscaping, but I don't think we would be creating that standard. We would be referencing other documents or directing somebody to other documents like the forestry plan, or there's another
There's a
listing
checklist.
of plant species that are compatible with this climate zone, so
Can we say provide landscaping, design that meets the standards for community entrance?
If we said require landscaping design for the community entrance, because we do tend to require landscape design.
Okay, I would do that. Require landscaping design,
For the community entrance zoning district.
There are requirements, or there's a checklist that says, we went through this with the habitat
Yeah.
housing. We had to have 2 overstory,
yeah.
2 understory, this
Right.
many shrubs, blah, 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 blah. So there is some kind of a standard document already, which does get reviewed.
So the wording provide a landscaping, design that meets the standards for community entrance, that works.
Not specific community entrance.
All right, then provide landscaping design that meets the standard of zoning district, I suppose.
but this,
I think we have to figure out what document actually
this,
fits.
this goal though is specific to the community entrance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when we're talking about community
Yeah,
entrances.
they're right about that.
So
So provide landscaping design for the community. We don't like provide because it implies the city's gonna provide it.
Required.
I go back to require landscaping design for the community entrance zoning district.
That meets the standards for,
But we
whatever
have to
they
have-
are,
Yeah,
huh?
we have a problem with not having standards.
Well, we just said we have some, in
Not
terms,
not for community entrance, that was for housing.
oh, okay, Dave?
So
Okay.
what I'm hearing is, we have standards. What I'm hearing is the action item is enhance the standards to specifically address the community entrance. So, you know, is that different than the other, I don't know, 2 overstory, 2 understory? how is it different?
Okay.
I wasn't comfortable with just require a plan. Great, I'm gonna give you a drawing that has a rock in the middle of it. There's my plan. I've met your requirement.
Okay. Do you know where we are yet? Because now I'm confused.
I do, and I think so it sounds like you guys don't wanna have any need to amend the zoning regulations. So I think we need to avoid
Right.
using term standard, especially because I had originally called out for zoning districts, and that implies the zoning, requirements need to get reviewed and then amended, so we need to stay away from that verbiage.
Right.
So, would it be more beneficial to say, encourage landscape design utilizing the, like, drought-resistant vegetation? And then the action item could be something along the lines of contacting the MSU Extension Office for information? Or do we want
I'm trying to avoid,
this and come back?
I'm trying to avoid specificity, because if I say something specific, I leave something out. If you just make it a general comment that they're gonna have to provide a design that meets requirements or standards, that kind of,
Planning board review, planning board review.
that it kind of gives you some wiggle room as those standards change or whatever. That's where I'm coming from. Jeff?
Yeah, I like the first part of what your suggested wording was. I think if you could restate it.
Encourage landscape design to utilize drought-resistant vegetation?
I would say vegetation appropriate for this climatic
Climate zone.
climate zone.
Yeah.
We could also footnote this and come back to it
Please.
and keep moving on just for the sake of time.
Yeah,
We have to look up the existing documents and see if there's
Yeah.
an action plan done.
Yep, I agree.
you've kind of heard the conversation, see what you can come up with, and then,
And then we can look at
Highlight
it.
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree, we can do that.
Sandy, you had something else here?
No, that was it, and what we already discussed, D, which
Okay.
is pursue funding, we took that
Yeah,
out to find.
Identify
Identify.
identify the funding so, all right, so moving on to land use goal number 3. We had, let's see, first comment was just a grammatical statutes instead of statute.
That was everywhere.
I
So you can just
can get that,
do a
that's-
replace.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's easy to add in this. Those are easy comments. For D, Jeff said either in this goal or land use 4, add objectives. 1, to support walkable connectivity between neighborhoods and the central business district. And 2, continue to support park designation requirements for all new subdivisions.
right.
I can definitely get those added in there. And so that kind of, the, park designation requirements, so there's the, the state law says you either have to do a park or you can do cash in lieu, so that's something that the city could also address on, like, the cash in lieu portion. I'll have to find, I believe we had a better example for that, and I'll have to find, what another community has done I could provide to you. I just can't remember off the top of my head which community it was, so.
Okay.
So I'll provide that the next one, or in the next, week.
Is there something in here that says, for instance, a subdivision should not only have parks and trails, but maybe a variety of housing options?
That's a good question. I don't know if I did.
I've seen that in places where the subdivision was approved, where they do have a section with either duplexes or fourplex, or that it addresses just not only single-family homes,
Mhm.
but multifamily homes. And maybe that's something we could encourage.
Yeah, that could definitely go in either land use or the housing
So,
section.
it is already in there, so if you look at, land use 3C, it says encourage planned unit developments with varying types of housing and housing density. I think
On that.
that addresses your question.
Where did you just refer to, Jeremy?
It's LU 3, C.
C.
But that's only for a PUD, that's not for a subdivision.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could, you could adjust that. You could say encourage, new developments, have varying types of housing and housing density or something. So you could just change out the planned unit development part.
Yeah, don't limit it to planned
Planned.
unit.
And keep in mind that would probably need, the action item with that would probably be review the zoning regulations to make sure that these varying types of housing fits. But once again, it's a 5-year goal, so I don't think that you gotta do it in the next, like, right after it gets adopted, so.
Okay,
In fairness, we
Well,
didn't meet all of them.
and I think your current zoning kind of does that. So when somebody does a subdivision, they would just have to identify the zoning districts they want for certain density and areas. In their kind of, the Spires is kind of doing that same thing, right? So, I think your zoning kind of covers that already, with the different zoning districts that you already have set up.
The golf course does that too.
yeah. Okay,
I
so
mean,
Are you
The only
okay?
other thing I was gonna suggest is that I would be careful in the growth policy on hemming yourself into requiring parkland dedication of land for subdivisions, just because I've run into a lot of instances where, you know, especially in a phase development or a larger subdivision where the developer, you know, has, or the city, if you require land to be dedicated, the city gets that land. And there's no requirement that the developer has to develop a park. So then it becomes the city's responsibility to actually develop the park. If you have the option to do land dedication and cash in lieu, what I found recently is a lot of developers are doing combined, where the city is saying, well, we don't want, you know, a 20-acre park. We want a 4-acre park. And then you provide us cash in lieu for the rest so that we can use that money to then develop the park. Or the developer can develop the park as part of their cash in lieu. Does that make sense?
yeah,
So I would just be careful hemming yourself in the growth policy to you know, we want you to dedicate parkland. That's all I'm trying to say. So.
okay,
awesome.
all right. You
Really
got
good
that?
comment. I will get back to the drawing board on that one, look at it again. Let's see, I think that covers it for land use
I
3.
think we got them covered. Everybody got their comments covered, Susan, Jeff,
I think so.
Teresa,
Yeah.
Sandy?
Yeah, next one, looks like we got another
Local services?
misspelling.
Huh?
We still got land use,
Oh,
goal 6 had a couple,
Okay.
unless they're, yeah. We have add outdoor advertising after development as one comment. And the next was another spelling error.
One thing I have on LU 4B, it says review the current zoning regulations and amend the regulations to allow for higher density. I would say consider amending,
Yeah, well, and
instead of telling us to amend.
and from Jeremy's comment, it sounds like we can get rid of that. Sounds like that's already taken care of in the zoning regulations.
we can eliminate it completely.
So we can eliminate B.
Wait,
Is that what you think, Jeremy?
was that an accomplishment?
Or you could say, or you could just say, I mean, if you just say review, then you're not setting yourself up to do a specific thing. You're just saying, you know, an action item is to review the zoning regulations to make sure that we're providing, you know, higher density. I believe the zoning you have the districts set up already that provide, like, our, you know, R3 provides for, you know, 5+ you know, unit development. I mean, that's pretty high density residential use. So I think you're covered, but if you leave this in there, then the planning, I mean, it's kind of up to you. The planning board can always review the zoning regulations and amend them whenever they want. So I think you could take it out, but
Well, this
it doesn't
is
hurt.
review It's one thing to review the regulations to allow, it's another thing to review the regulations and amend the regulations to allow for. That is saying that we have to review our current zoning and amend it, the regulations, to allow for higher density. So I wanted to remove the words "and amend."
And so, Al, I wonder if part of this is an accomplishment at the last pass of zoning regulations that were adopted, because a lot of that effort went into making sure there could be higher density.
Mhm.
So, you
We
know,
already have one that's done.
But I agree,
That's what I'm
I agree with
saying.
Sandy.
Maybe more.
Do we get agreement from,
Yes.
with Sandy to take out the words "and amend"?
and amend is fine.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would leave the rest of it.
Yeah, Susan?
I'm with him.
Okay, so we'll take that out, right?
Yep, got it.
And then if you think it's an accomplishment, write
Well,
it down and send it to
Yeah,
Greg.
because, I mean, that's what the last one was about.
Okay?
I don't think I think it's an ongoing review,
It
that we would constantly review our zoning to see if we're adequately addressing
Mhm.
for higher density and mixed uses. So
We
I
could-
think I don't think yeah, we did accomplish something in our last zoning, but
Yeah.
it's a work in progress.
Right, but is it worth stating that the last pass of the regulation did provide for, you know, more of the ADUs and higher density? Just as a,
Work to continue.
still a work
Yeah.
in progress, but yes, this was done.
We've made progress toward.
It's
Okay,
a heavy lift, I think.
Yeah. 10-4. Okay, moving on.
What
Right,
is
so-
kind of interesting, incorporate into zoning regulations a requirement for public access to Rock Creek and new developments adjacent to the riverine, whatever a riverine is, and riparian area.
That might have been typo, but it was riverine area, kind of just down by the creek. But I think there's a typo in there. And I gotta turn around now.
I put a
finish
question
up
mark
my-
on that. I hadn't heard that term before.
It's confusing.
Oh, dear,
I guess we're done.
it is time.
Fine.
Anyway,
But it, Mr. Chair, it is 7-Eleven.
Well, I'd like to get through,
Get the last two.
I'd like to get through local services if I could.
All right, so then we should be at 6. Or did we get through, land use plans, or land use goal 7?
Yeah,
Dark
I think
6
so.
were just a couple.
Yeah,
you took
couple of
dark
typo, or grammars, yeah.
Okay, so local services then, moving on.
Yeah, I had a comment, I think, for LU 7.
Okay, let's see.
Trying to see what I said. Areas with, what I had there is areas with potential for future annexation conform to city growth policy goals and objectives and zoning regulations. And then another comment was, if applicable, and to ensure adequate future water supplies for areas to be annexed, require transfer of water rights to the city. And I guess what I was trying to get at there when we're considering annexation is, number one, is the annexation in conformance with our city goals and objectives and zoning regulations, and number two, are we going to ensure that the city infrastructure is adequate to take on that added burden? That's kind of all I was getting at, was to kind of clarify a little bit, at least a little bit more in terms of a review process for, as we're considering annexation or developing an annexation policy.
Teresa?
Al, that comment kind of goes hand in hand with what I was suggesting, as possibly not just an objective, but an action plan. We talked about it earlier, that if there is any type of an annexation, we understand that the ordinance that exists today is outdated, as well as possibly the procedures because of the outdating of the ordinance, and that would have to be, you know, something that is completely, I don't know, it's just part of LU 7. We can't really move forward until all that is in place or updated.
Mhm.
The ordinance is updated.
Yeah, we talked about it because that goes hand in hand with the policy and procedures of the city. And if that's not clarified, I mean, that's a very firm action plan that we discussed with Cody already, based on the discussion that was brought forward. So I think that needs to be stated here.
So are you suggesting there under 7 that you would add B and C, Jeff?
B and C.
Well,
Under LU 7, you wanted to talk about the area of potential future annexation, conform city growth policy goals, et cetera. Is that B, and then C, adequate future water supplies?
Yeah, although I would, since this is objective, what Teresa was getting at was the action item that would follow. So the action item is developing the annexation policy, but I guess as an objective to incorporate that is that, annexation policy considers the future needs of the city for water and sewer infrastructure, water, sewer, streets, infrastructure, and consistency with city, growth policy and zoning regulations, something along those lines.
Can you add those as B and C?
Yeah.
and those in turn are part of the.
And then, again, we'll review it in the next draft, but at least get it down there. I think it has merit to consider. Agreed? No? Yes? Sandy? Susan?
I wrote it down.
Do we have to add the action plan though? Because that has to be done, review and update city annexation ordinance and procedures to align with state code, city policy and procedures. You know, that's something we had already identified. So
Yeah.
we might as well put it in.
I'm not sure we can get through local services. I
I
think
don't think so either.
we need to stop.
7:16, so I don't think.
So
we're
we
gonna
got to page 9, local services.
So what I will do moving forward is I'll go through everything, all the comments, get them all updated for the next draft, fix all the spelling errors and everything,
Okay.
and then I'll send it back out to you guys via email, and then you guys can review it again, and if we wanna do like another round of comments,
Yeah.
move forward. The next planning board meeting that this will be on, I'll be on Zoom instead of here,
Yeah.
so.
And I was glad you were here. It's
Yeah,
it's a lot easier, and I thought the conversation was better, but the thing about it is I'm not sure when, because our July 10th, we've got 2 applications, and then July 24th, we have at least 1. So on the 24th, I don't see us touching this at all on the 10th.
Shoot, probably for
The
August.
24th is the earliest, we could probably get some done. I don't know how long. That's the Beartooth Clinic, and I don't see that being a 2-hour process, because we could probably give an hour towards growth policy on the 24th. Jeff, will you help me here?
Yeah, if that's the only thing on the,
I think Beartooth Clinic's the 24th, right?
Yeah.
That's the only one, right? So why don't we shoot for at least an hour on the 24th to not review what we did, but to continue from where we stopped?
Yep, I'll make all the changes to what we've already reviewed, and we'll just keep moving forward.
Okay, and then you'll send that to the planning.
I can send it to, do you want me to send it to Greg?
Send it to Greg.
Okay,
And then
everything's-
Greg is gonna be our quarterback.
that
And
works for
then
me.
he will share it with the planning board. And do you want the planning board to see it before you post it, or do you just wanna post it? Yeah,
No, absolutely, that should and can go to planning board. I was just going to add, with timing, that what we do is, we're sending these out the week before the meeting.
Mhm.
Next week is 4th of July, Thursday, Friday are holidays, which means our packet, everything that needs to be ready, that needs to go out, needs to be done by Wednesday. So,
Yeah,
one week
but-
from today, that needs to be done and ready to go out,
But,
because otherwise, we won't get it posted, it won't get posted on Thursday or Friday. So what we would normally do on Friday needs to be done.
if you can get it to us,
That's the third, right?
yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
because we are in the holiday.
And that's for being posted online?
Online.
that's for posting the meeting, for public meeting and attendance, and we have specific things that very much definitely.
But I'm talking about posting the draft.
Pardon?
I'm talking about posting the draft.
If that's gonna be in the packets for planning board, then it would be, then
But-
that would also be that same.
But my point is, we're not gonna do ghost policy on the tenth, so it won't be in the packet for the planning board.
It doesn't need to be for the 10th.
What I'm saying is,
I track what you're saying. I heard him say he'd have it ready, but it's not gonna be in the packet anyway, so.
Right.
what he's talking about is the draft that we wanna post online for the public,
For the 24th.
which is separate from all the agenda items.
Understood.
And what I'm saying is, once he gets that done, he sends it to Greg. Greg will send it to us.
Absolutely.
We'll
agree with
have,
that.
we'll have one day. If I don't hear from anybody, we'll say post it. If we hear from somebody, then we'll go from there.
I'm going to push back just slightly. The second they send that out to us, and that it has working draft and everything on it, that's a public document. So I don't know that we
Okay,
can get 24 hours.
That's fine. So the same time, Greg, same time we send it to us, we send it to whoever needs to post it.
And the date should be today.
And the date should be today's date, as of today.
And maybe that's what it should say, working
Is
draft.
the working draft as of today?
Today. As of
It's gonna reflect the changes from tonight.
Yes,
Correct. The working draft as
Do-
of.
okay?
I could do almost like a little title page too, stick it in there.
Probably not a
something
bad
like that,
idea.
Or do you want it just in
every
a,
page.
And I had anticipated putting an additional, on there, but I certainly welcome your verbiage on title page. I've got several
Yeah.
notes and comments of stuff that would be there, and
yeah,
we
perfect.
can compare notes and.
Big old
things like that.
disclaimer right on the front.
This is a work in process, the public's gonna have lots of opportunity to comment.
I can definitely do that, and then put the watermark on there.
But I'd say this, Kevin, you virtual on Wednesday the 24th, since we only have a short period of time, is fine. But when we start getting into the meat of this thing, and with the mayor's approval, our August meeting is the 14th. See if, with mayor's approval, I'd
Yep,
like to have you
so I'll
here.
always defer to Mayor Westwood.
On the
for all that.
14th, I think you need to be here.
Okay.
Unless there's a kerfunkel and we have to do something else that time, but right now I'm thinking Wednesday the 14th is the growth policy, or the 14th of August is growth policy. Jeff?
That's good.
Okay? 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 All right, you all were pretty quiet during all that stuff, so, it is, staff communication update?
We're putting together the staff reports for the Timberline Townhome, CUP. We'll have that to the board by July 3rd. And then staff report for the Spires zone map amendment, same due date, July 3rd. Hospital CUP is scheduled for July 24th hearing.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we have.
Okay. Are you all right with the scheduling with the growth policy that we just talked about? Jeremy, are you all right with that?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. No other communication or updates? All right, petitions or communications from the audience? Dave?
Just as a member of the public, I want to say thank you guys very much for your volunteer efforts to the community. I get what goes into this, having been on planning board, and your comments tonight leave little doubt that you have taken this seriously and if you put effort into doing it. And I just want you guys to know that I appreciate it. And, Jeremy, I appreciate your input as well, but
No.
if you are, this meeting will be available and online in a relatively quick fashion. And if you're catching grief from folks that aren't gonna come to the meeting in person, please feel free to refer them to that so that they can see and appreciate what you guys are doing as well.
Thanks, Dave. I'll go after, Heather, did you get your airport question taken care of?
I've never really asked it.
I sent you a couple of emails, or are you getting them?
I don't think I have an email, but in the last 2 days?
Oh, I sent it right after we spoke, but anyway, that's okay. If, just asking.
I just have this as
Yeah.
was originally,
Yeah. All right, well, we can talk offline then, to answer, I just want to make sure. Anything online for best from the public?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Other business, Dave, is there anything you need to bring up?
Not that I'm thinking of at this time, thank you. The only concern I had is just the recognition from our staff that we needed stuff we needed to act by Wednesday, so. And some of that staff leaves at 3:00 on Wednesday, so.
Yeah. Jeff, we got anything?
I don't have anything.
Teresa? Candy?
Saw that.
Susan?
No.
So we're not gonna get a new board member until the 12th, whatever our next meeting is, right?
There is a council meeting prior to the next planning board meeting, so you could potentially have a board member for that next meeting.
Okay. What I've done is, and the reason I bring this up is that I need to get whoever that person is a lot of data.
It is in your inbox,
Okay.
past tense.
Because I've already sent data to the 2 candidates, and I need to get, so otherwise they're gonna show up that Wednesday and they're gonna go, whoa. And they'll probably do that anyway.
Finding another appointee.
Better give them some
If I
chance.
get any letters of retraction, we'll understand.
Yeah,
Down to the next, get the approval.
Yeah.
At the same time, to go on to the
Yeah.
next one if that one leaves.
yeah,
I'm here right now.
Hey, Dan,
yeah.
you met Dan Horvath?
I had not, but nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so
Thanks for the correspondence.
you've got the data, and I send
I have
it, I send it to John, and I will send it to the other
I've
candidate.
wandered around town with this for a few days.
Well, after this, watching us tonight, you're having second thoughts,
That was
probably.
like a restaurant bill that he didn't pay. What was it?
So he walked out with the whole thing.
Okay, if there's no other business, thanks, Kevin, for making the trip. Jeremy, thanks, and
Thank you.
we're adjourned.
Thanks for letting me come
Thank
down.
you, Al.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yep, have a good night.
Good night.